Hello. We are very delighted that we have with us Dr. Sanjeev Balian, Minister of States, Department of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying. Please welcome, sir. He himself is a veterinarian, so we will be very much happy to have his inputs in this session.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this glorious day, which is full of learning, exchanging, and exploring new ideas. In this session, important topics like advances in point-of-care testing and its role in animal health management, comprehensive health management, model adopted for smallholders, dairying in India, will etc. be covered. Let's introduce chair and speakers for this interactive session. Let's put our hands together for David Kelton. He is a professor of veterinary epidemiology and the dairy farmers of Ontario Dairy Cattle Health Research Chair at the University of Guelph. Can we have a huge round of applause? Proceeding further, now let's put our hands together for Dr. Hirofumi Kogeta. He is graduated at the University of Tokyo and worked for the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries for more than 30 years. Served as Chief Veterinary Officer and OIA Delegate of Japan from 2004 to 2006. Can we have a huge round of applause? Let's put our hands together for our another speaker, Upmanyu Basu. He is Master in Public Administration from Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, NUS. He is Joint Secretary of Livestock Health Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying Ministry of Fisheries. Can we have a huge round of applause? Proceeding further, let's introduce our next speaker for this very interactive session, Mr. Scott. He is a veterinary graduate from Sydney University with postgraduate training in production medicine and a PhD from Massey University. He is a registered specialist in bovine reproduction and is a professor at Massey Veterinary School, Palmerston, North New Zealand. Can we have once again a huge round of applause? Proceeding further, let's put our hands together for our next speaker, Miss Anna. She is a research scientist at Natural Resources Institute, Finland. Anna has broad research interests related to economics of disease, farm management, animal welfare, precision livestock farming. All right, so now I hand over my mic to the chair and the speakers along with the Honorable Minister. Let's begin this interactive session all together.
Thank you very much for the introductions. Again, my name is David Kelton. I'm a veterinarian from Canada. Have the pleasure of chairing the Standing Committee on Animal Health and Welfare for IDF. And I'm very pleased to chair this session on trends in animal health. As we've seen and heard in the program here so far at the World Dairy Summit here in India, there are a lot of the industry we work in, the dairy industry, is very dynamic. We're undergoing change. We've seen the changes here in the industry, in the dairy industry in India. We've seen a lot of changes globally. And those changes also are reflected in how we manage the animals that produce the milk that we consume. And so we've seen changes and trends in animal health. And so the objective of the panel and presentations here today is to explore some of the trends and some of the changes that we've seen and what the future might hold. I will introduce each of the speakers as they come up to the podium, since we've got simultaneous sessions and people may be moving back and forth. Our first speaker is Dr. Hirofumi Kujita, who graduated from the University of Tokyo and worked for the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries for more than 30 years. And he has served as the Chief Veterinary Officer and OIE Delegate of Japan. He was appointed to the World Organization for Animal Health, or OIE, Regional Representative for Asia and the Pacific in April 2013. Dr. Kujita, we welcome you to the podium.
Thank you very much for a nice introduction. My name is Hirofumi Kugita, OIR, World Regional Representative for Asian Pacific of World Organization for Animal Health. Our name was changed from OIE to WOAH, W-O-A-H. So I will start my presentation. Okay, how I can... okay. Okay, let me start again. Yes, it is my great pleasure to be invited to this World Daily Summit 2022 and have an opportunity to present you about the OIE, WOAH, and its activities. Okay, so this is the content of my talk today. I will start with brief introduction of the organization and its main mission as a global authority on animal health and welfare, including transparency, standard setting, expertise, and solidarity. Then I will talk about WOAH's support programs and initiatives for national veterinary services, which are particularly relevant to dairy industry, highlighting PBS pathway, One Health, food safety and animal welfare. World Organization for Animal Health was founded nearly 100 years ago, so very old organization, as an intergovernmental organization for improving animal health and welfare worldwide. It has been known as OIE, the acronym of French name of the organization. But in the last World Assembly of Delegates held in May 2022, this year, it was decided to change the acronym to WOAH, WOAH, and adopted new logo, which you can see in this slide. For Asia Pacific region, headquarters is in Paris, and we have 182 members. For Asian Pacific region, regional office is in Tokyo, Japan, where I come from, and sub-regional office in Bangkok, Thailand. These two offices are working together to support 32 regional members. Okay, this slide shows WOAH's main missions, or 4 pillars of WOAH, namely transparency, standard setting, expertise, and solidarity. I will touch on a bit more detail on each mission. World Animal Health Information System, or WAHIS, is a unique and comprehensive database through which information on the animal health situation worldwide is reported and disseminated throughout the world. WAHIS data reflect the information gathered by the veterinary services from WOA member countries. So, in other words, WOA members have responsibility to submit report, including immediate notification, follow-up report, monthly report, 6 monthly report, and annual report, accurately in a timely manner. This is a fundamental and most important mission of the World Organization for Animal Health since its creation. All this information can be publicly accessed through the WOA website. If you visit WOA website, you can find this page. This public interface includes data extraction tool, interactive mapping tool, and dashboard to support data consultation, visualization, and extraction of official validated animal health data. You can visualize graphically the data submitted by all member countries through WAHIS. Also, dashboards such as disease situation, preventive and control measures, or quantitative data are available through this website. I would like to show you one slide on the updated of the lump skin disease as an example. As you may know, as of 9 September 2022, LSD, lump skin disease, has been reported in 45 countries globally since 2020, affecting more than 249,000 animals with more than 36,000 animals lost. I am very much impressed to hear the strong commitment of Prime Minister in his opening address yesterday to fight against these transboundary animal diseases such as FMD, LSD, not to mention African swine fever or avian influenza. WOAH, together with FAO and other partners, continues to provide various support to the effort of our member countries to prevent and control those transboundary animal diseases. Second pillar of WOAH is standard setting. The agreement on the application of sanitary and phytosanitary measures, SPS agreement, encourages the member of the World Trade Organization, WTO, to base their sanitary measures on international standards, guidelines, and recommendations where they exist. WOAH is the WTO reference organization for standard setting relating to animal health and zoonosis, together with its sister organizations, Codex Alimentarius and IPPC. WOA regularly updates its international standards, notably known as OIE codes and manuals, in accordance with new scientific information and technological advances, following its established transparent and democratic adoption procedure. Third pillar is expertise network. WOAH has a global network of reference laboratories which have expertise on designated diseases such as FMD, avian influenza, and collaborating centers which have expertise on cross-cutting topics like epidemiology, animal welfare, or food safety. Currently, more than 300 reference laboratories and collaborating centers are designated globally, and we are closely working together with those experts to provide support to national veterinary services of our member countries. Fourth pillar is what we call solidarity. WOA has various programs to support national veterinary services. GFTAD is one of them, which is a joint initiative of FAO and WOAH, WOA, launched in 2004 to achieve the prevention and detection and control of transboundary animal diseases, TADs. In Asia Pacific, we have established priority diseases for each sub-region, namely South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, and the Pacific, and organizes regional and sub-regional coordination meetings regularly to strengthen collaboration not only between OIE, WOA, and FAO, but also amongst relevant partners in the region. Under the GFTAD umbrella, FAO and WOAH are jointly or respectively providing various implementing various activities such as capacity building support, setting up standard group of experts, or developing laboratory or epidemiology network across the region. WOA has developed the performance of veterinary services pathway. We call it PVS pathway, which is the WOA flagship capacity building platform for the sustainable improvement of national veterinary services. The PVS pathway is to empower national veterinary services by providing them with a comprehensive understanding of their strengths and weakness using a globally consistent methodology based on international standards. Upon the request of members, WOAH can conduct external evaluation and gap analysis, then provide various targeted support programs, which I will show you in the next slides. Yes, this is very busy slides, so I'm not going into details. Okay, let me just name those 8 support programs which WOA can provide to member countries based on preceding evaluation or planning, and in response to request of delegate of member countries. Yes, first one is One Health integration, and second, veterinary legislation support program, sustainable laboratory support, laboratory training, veterinary and veterinary paraprofessional VPP education, veterinary statutory body support, veterinary workforce development, and public-private partnership. If you are interested in one of those targeted support programs, you can visit OIE website where you can get more information on these activities. Yes, next topic is One Health. Three organizations, FAO, WHO, and WOAH, WAR, have worked together for many years to prevent, detect, control, and eliminate health threat to human originating directly or indirectly from animals. Putting the One Health vision into practice has been facilitated by a formal alliance between the three organizations known as tripartite, acknowledging their respective responsibility in combating diseases which have a severe impact on health and the economy. The collaboration has been expanded to add UNEP, UN Environment Program, to the alliance, where the four international agencies, FAO, UNEP, WHO, and WOAH, which is now called as quadripartite, have signed an agreement in March 2022, as you can see the photo in the slides. In the afternoon, we have another session on animal disease management, One Health approach. So you can hear more about our collaboration among quadripartite in that session. So I won't go into details our collaboration on One Health. Okay, veterinary services can carry out a wide range of activities in animal production system that contribute to ensuring the production of food safety. At farm level, veterinarians are responsible for surveillance, early detection, and treatment of disease in animals in order to minimize foodborne pathogens from entering the food chain, ensuring the responsible and prudent use of veterinary medical products, including antimicrobial agent, and traceability of animals and animal product throughout the food product chain. And at the processing and distribution stage, veterinarians also oversees ante- and post-mortem meat inspection, involved in oversight of control measures during processing and distribution of food of animal origin, contribute to increasing the awareness of food production, processors, and distributors in addressing animal production food safety, and certify the food of animal origin complies with animal health and food safety requirement. WOAH and Codex Alimentarius collaborate closely in the development of their respective standards relevant to the whole food production continuum, taking care to avoid gaps and contradiction. Okay, this is my last slide. Animal welfare is another important area WOA is working for. As you all know, animal welfare is closely linked to animal health, the animal health and well-being of people as well, and the sustainability of socio-economic and ecological system. Perception of animal welfare differ from one region to another and between our culture and one culture to another. WOA works on the development of international standards on animal welfare based on scientific evidence in consultation with member countries and key stakeholders. So far, WOAH has developed 14 codes chapters as you see on this slide. And number 11, chapter 11 is animal welfare and dairy cattle production system. Yeah. These standards support members in the implementation of animal welfare by improving communication between government and stakeholders to raise awareness on animal welfare. WOAH has developed a global animal welfare strategy, and in our region, Asia Pacific, we also developed regional animal welfare strategy and implementing those recommendations. Okay, this concludes my presentation. World Organization for Animal Health continues to work together with national veterinary services of our member countries and contribute to the sustainable development of dairy industries of the world. I wish the World Dairy Summit 2020 great success. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kuchita, for a very informative presentation, and you did very well to remember to refer to the organization as the World Organization for Animal Health. As you and I discussed prior to the session, we're so used to OIE that it's an interesting name change, and I think again bodes for again the changes that we're moving to in the future. Our second, I will make the comment here that I forgot at the outset, and we will hold questions until the end of the session because we've got a tight timeline, and we'll allow our speakers to make their presentations, and then we'll hold questions for all speakers until the end. Our second speaker in this session is Mr. Upamanya Basu. He holds a master's in public administration from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy from the National University of Singapore. He is a joint secretary of Livestock Health in the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying in the Government of India. Mr. Basu, the floor is yours, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, sir. Respected Honorable Minister of State, Dr. Balian, Chairman, Dr. Kugita, and others sitting on the stage. It's a privilege for me to speak on this occasion as the Mission Director of National Animal Disease Control Program that is presently undertaken by the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Government of India. So before beginning, I would like to recall yesterday's speech by our Honorable Prime Minister, sir, where he stressed on one thing, that in India, it is not mass production, but production by the masses. Meaning thereby that the dairy industry is, to a large extent, the contributors are those small and marginal farmers who have 1, 2, or 3 cattle at the best. Of course, there are a few larger dairies which are there in the country, but it is the small farmers. And under this program actually, in fact, again, if I may reiterate that the Honorable PM Sir had mentioned about government interventions to aid these beneficiaries. It's like returning back to society. So in that case, apart from the latest techniques, is the animal health. And one more thing that I wanted to speak was that, say that just my earlier speaker, Dr. Kugita-san, spoke about OIE and its formation in 1924. Let's not forget that it was rinderpest, a deadly disease of cattle, and cattle which went from India and it was shipped to Belgium, and there all the resident cattle, they died because of this, which led to the formation of OIE, which is now known as WAH, much before WHO. So now to begin with, we all know that India is the highest milk producer in the world, but the number of cattle in the country is also quite high, and that's why the animal-wise productivity is low. Reason possibly may be lack of knowledge about the latest available options and techniques amongst livestock farmers, and their empowerment to grab such opportunities. Besides, the high livestock density, growing livestock population, and the need for further strengthening of animal disease surveillance makes us a potential hotspot for animal disease outbreaks. Presently, we are facing the almost an epidemic-like situation in lumpy skin disease, which we are controlling in states. So these animal diseases impact not only the livelihood of farmers, but also our ability to increase our global standing, the country's global standing in exports of livestock products. So recognizing all these things, the government of India, under the able leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sir, in fact, started with setting up a separate Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, to have that focus and impetus on the livestock sector. And one such visionary initiative which he started, in fact, he spoke about it yesterday, is the National Animal Disease Control Program. This program aims to vaccinate, 100% vaccinate, all eligible susceptible livestock against foot and mouth disease. Foot and mouth disease is a very economically important animal disease in the country, which impacts this particular sector. And the other disease is brucellosis, which this program seeks to control by vaccinating female bovine calves annually. So as to, our target is to control these diseases, especially FMD, by 2030. The target is steep and the journey has begun. In fact, our inspiration, the foundation of this program was laid much earlier. We drew our strong motivation from the fact that India had successfully eradicated rinderpest first and then helped the world in conquering it in 2011. In fact, in India it was 2006, if I'm not wrong. Now coming to the NADCP program, in fact, this is not merely a vaccination program, but it is a stepping stone to enable benefits of activities, because it encompasses a lot of activities as shown in this slide. In fact, it involves many other institutions apart from the department. In the department, we have the livestock health and disease control program, of which NADCP is a component. Then we move on to the slide where we say that the animal health microcosm consists of One Health. We have the quarantine station, the animal health institutions in the country, national action plans against rabies, African horse sickness, ASF, then glanders, of course, African horse sickness, presently the country is free, and AMR. Then our FMD control program, we have the it's officially recognized by WOA. We have collaborations with Ayush, that's to see the alternative side, because AMR is a burgeoning problem now, and we have to find alternative means to reduce antibiotics. So there is collaboration with Ayush, and of course we have realized that we need more and more vaccinators, more and more community health workers. So we have a system called A-Health, which has just commenced. Training has begun on that. And internationally, we have collaborated with WRL, that is World Resource Laboratory of UK, Purbright. I'll come to it a little later. We have ECAH, a committee, special committee of experts, which actually guides animal health policies. Then we have something, a portal called INAF, that is it's a animal health portal created by none other than National Dairy Development Board for us, who is also one of the stakeholders involved in this program. And we have VCI, that's Veterinary Council of India, which is mandated to regulate veterinary practice in the country. So it's concerned more about education and regulation of practice. Going up the ladder, we have our future, that's NDLM, which we have heard, and we will be hearing more about it in the afternoon. That's National Digital Livestock Mission. Now the program architecture of NADCP is like this. The department is in the middle, and we have, since the state animal husbandry department, the implementing agencies, the livestock boards, they are actually responsible for implementing it in the field and taking it right up to the vaccination up to the farmers' doorsteps. We have on the left side, we have NDDB and INAF. It's a digital database. Along with vaccination, we are trying to have every animal ear tagged, so that there is traceability of not only the animals, the vaccination done to the animals, check on the animals' health and the productivity. Then we have ICR institutes and our own institute of National Institute of Animal Health, that's at Bagpat. They actually check the quality of vaccines. In a vaccination program, vaccine is the main ingredient, but it is necessary to check the quality. And of course, the ear tag, even the ear tag qualities are checked. There's an institution called CPET which does this. And we have the National Steering Committee which actually steers this program, monitors this program, and it is headed by the Secretary of the department. And we have principal secretaries of states as well in the National Steering Committee, so that it's to show that how transparent we are, and we are working with the states as well, because it has to be stakeholders working together. Then we have with us the vaccine and the ear tag manufacturers. We consider them as a stakeholder as well, because without them, vaccination program cannot survive. A program logistic agency which actually helps in collecting samples for laboratory tests, but also sees how the vaccine is delivered to each state and each district of the state from the manufacturer side. And we have an overall for management, a program management agency. We all know that implementing such a program, and let me remind you that this is the world's largest program, because we have in stake about 535 million of livestock involved, which I'm sure a few countries may have more than this. And to monitor as to what we are doing at the ground level, we have a telephonic survey done. Random calls are made to the farmers and asked whether actually their animals have been vaccinated or not, and this feedback is given to the states for any correction or any confirmation. Even the state, they have developed such call centers as well. Now, these are the activities under this program. We have the campaign planning, we have access requirement and inventory. The states have to be ready first before I implement the program. The registration of animals, specifications, mapping where it is, because you see, when a vaccination program is done, we have to see that individual states, they have to vaccinate. How we strategize from the state border to inside. Though this is sometimes difficult, because you will see later how things have gone in the last 2 years. Then we have assessment of manpower, preparedness of the states, vaccine efficacy, OIE endorsement is there, because while doing this program, we have to keep in mind that OIE standards, whatever have been set in for the OIE official recognition, are done. And remuneration. Now, remuneration to vaccinators is a very important step, because we have seen that for any action, every human action or behavior, there has got to be one word, that's motivation. Without that, the world doesn't move. Then we have the in-app dashboards, the monitoring is done even at the center, and then we have also, working in a country where there are multiple authorizers. So we have to tread that path as well. Getting finance is easy to a great extent, provided you follow all the rules and then meander those finances, the finances to the states, so that the programs are not hit. Next we come to the end-to-end process of the vaccination against FMD. Of course, the vaccination against brucella is also a similar pattern. You see how the vaccine manufacturing, and it is supplied to the district headquarters, but before that it is tested and quality testing is done, and these are the designated laboratories, and for the ear tags, it's the responsibilities of NDTV. The states have to, they have the responsibility of sampling on the 0 day as well as after vaccination on the 21st day. So we have the sero monitoring and the sero surveillance as well, done by the states, for which again, as I said, motivation at every level is important. Now, we all know what happened in 2020, 2021. We have almost got over it now. COVID-19. Now, this COVID-19 had really, it almost coincided with the implementation of the program. And so we had to really bear the brunt. Production standstill, supply disruptions, vaccinations was withheld. But then slowly, I'm proud to say that my veterinarians all over the country responded very positively. And with every conditions being reduced, they have tried to go to the field and vaccinate the animals when the need arose. suppliers, the pressure on suppliers was eased by applying force majeure conditions. Now, as I said earlier, that vaccine is an important ingredient in the vaccination program. But quality vaccines, what happens to that? So we found during the journey in the last 2 years that the tests that were undertaken, the vaccine batches, they failed to comply. Then what? It was just a pretty bad, a rude shock that we got. We had to recall and destroy the non-compliant vaccines all over the country. But then we took a bold step of stopping the vaccination then and there and assessing the situation. In fact, I would like to point out that my animal husbandry commissioner who is sitting amongst you, he is one responsible for really bringing the whole thing to the right track. Umpteen consultations were done with the vaccine manufacturers, with the laboratories, harmonizing the testing protocols, and not to say the least, that my minister, a very hands-on veterinarian, in fact, he was also a stable force behind this. The help that we got was really wonderful. As you say that when there are multiple authorizers, it is also sometimes good to have them because you know which authorizer to approach seeking the help of which authorizer. Then there was one more problem. From 2020, we had avian influenza, African swine fever hit our shores, and lumpy skin disease. Of course, during that time it was not as serious which it is now, but then it was there. But then we planned vaccination in disease-free areas, seeing those spots. So the journey, I will say, it was not smooth. Still, we are grappling, and of course now vaccine supply has steadied to a great extent. The ministry makes efforts not only in implementing this program, but you see, it is necessary to have a public outreach, because unless I go to the villages and tell them what it is, why you should do this, because all this involves change in people's behavior, change in the beneficiaries' behavior. Who will come and vaccinate his animal until he knows about the vaccination? So these are the outreach efforts made by DAs of the department at the national level. You can see posters were put up, radio jingles, advertisement through TV, funding supports were given to the states, animation films were given, on vaccination, as well as how to go ahead with ear tagging, how to have cold chain equipments in place, because cold chain maintenance is a big requirement when you deal with vaccines and vaccination. Efforts were similarly made by the states. I am proud to say that each and every state did their best. Their veterinarians, as well as the state animal husbandry department, they came and gave support like anything. In fact, you can see people, the publicity they had given, of course, we had funded, but then carrying it to the field, they went to each and every farmer, even during COVID, and they have done a lot, in fact, at the state level. Village panchayat, cattle market authorities, because certain times you have to really see. In fact, states have also gone to, not only through the district, that is the official channel, the district collector, but even the message has gone to the schools, the headmaster of the schools, to tell the children about the benefits of vaccination. Because when they go home, they tell their parents who have animals to follow that. Then this is our future. how do we go about monitoring disease prevalence? We have FMD laboratories will be connected through a single portal. All these you will hear in the afternoon when speakers on NDLM describe how do we go about. But what is more, this thing is that data will be accessible in real time. Data from farmers, veterinarians, laboratory, they will be connected. As yesterday we have heard that digital transformation at all levels is taking place. And the benefits of digital transformation have to go to the farmers. Then wildlife disease data. This will be linked to human disease data because many of our diseases are basically, they come from animals. And our Animal Husbandry Commissioner, Dr. Malik, will be explaining to you on One Health when he speaks in the afternoon. Disease modeling and newer technologies in disease surveillance. In fact, these are the pathway of the future that we are going into. And strategies to create FMD-free compartments. This is our ultimate motive, to free the country of FMD. So this is the way forward, which will obviously be a game-changing technology. We have real-time data from all these veterinary hospitals, using the enough as the animal identification number. We move on there to this fetching of reports, automated, and it is analyzed and then brought to the ministry. To increase access to farmers who are remotely placed. Yesterday we heard the minister saying, my honorable minister, who said, so we are launching this mobile veterinary vans. These mobile veterinary units will be going at the farmer's call. So it is basically we are trying to go as doctors on call, on that similar pattern. This is bound. And last but not the least, transportation of vaccines. It is also important maintaining cold chain. And for that, we are still working on it using delivery drones to do this. With all this, I come to my last slide of my presentation, and I seek interventions from all of you, veterinarians worldwide, so that all suggestions are welcome. If my implementation could really face the challenge. Rinderpest education, farmers adopting suitable technologies, and role of frontline vaccinators and veterinarians. Help NADCP as a comprehensive disease management model. We wish to show to the world that yes, we can do it. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Because changing human behavior needs motivation. So actually, motivation towards adoption of suitable technologies, empathy of policymakers and program implementers, this will help to make a change and help us in alleviating the farmers' problem and taking this disease away from the country. With these words, I thank you all for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Basu, for sharing with us that very comprehensive and ambitious program that you have set out nationally. It's truly impressive. We'll move on to the third speaker in our session here, and that's Dr. Scott McDougall. Scott is a veterinary graduate of Sydney University and has postgraduate training in production medicine with a PhD from Massey University. He's a registered specialist in bovine reproduction and holds a professorship at Massey Veterinary School in Palmerston, New Zealand. He has a breadth of expertise across the dairy spectrum, and without further ado, I'll turn the floor over to Scott. Welcome.
Thank you for that introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank and acknowledge the organisers of the conference for the opportunity to talk to you all today. I'd also like to make the comment that it is really impressive to see how seriously the Indian government has taken this conference. To see the Prime Minister opening the Congress yesterday and to have the Minister here today is very impressive, I must say. So I'm going to try and cover a very broad topic in a very short period of time. And the way I'm going to approach it is to ask the question, well, to define what a cowside test is. I'm going to talk about how we might validate those tests, to understand how those tests are working and how we know they're working. And then I'm going to give some examples of some cowside tests, from the very simple to the very complex, to illustrate some points. So what are we talking about? And very simply, we're talking about the ability to test for disease at an animal side. So test for a condition without having to take samples and send them off to a reference laboratory. And we can use these tests on one cow, one individual animal, or we might use it in a population of animals. And as I've said, they can range from very simple, cheap technology up to very sophisticated modern technology. So just to illustrate why we might want to do point-of-care testing. So if we think about the traditional way of testing for disease, for example, we may have a population of animals and a veterinarian or para-veterinarian might test those animals by collecting a sample that is submitted by the supply chain, by a courier, to a laboratory where we must process that sample, centrifuge it, or do some other preparation step. We do the test, we compile the results, we analyse the results, and then we pass the information back to the veterinarian or the farmer. And this process takes time, it requires sophisticated laboratories, and so we don't get immediate answers. But theoretically, with point-of-care testing, we can draw a sample, perform a test without complicated sample processing. We get the result more or less immediately, so we can make a decision. So we get earlier detection, we get quick decision making, and depending on the test, for example, we may be able to make choices about treatments, about antimicrobials, so that we choose the right drug for the right cow at the right time, and therefore reduce overall drug use, but also reduce resistance. So there's some very positive effects of doing point-of-care testing. Now, what makes a good point-of-care test? How do we know a test is good? And the World Health Organization, in the human world, of course, has come up with a series of points around determining whether there's a good test. So first, and very importantly, and particularly in livestock agriculture, we want an affordable test. There's no point having a test that costs many dollars, because it's just too expensive. We can't use it. And of course, technically, the test must have good sensitivity and specificity, and I'll talk more about this in a minute. It must be user-friendly. So a farmer, for example, should be able to implement it without a lot of formal education. It should be rapid, it should be easy to use and robust, so it doesn't need a cold chain necessarily. Ideally, there is no equipment, so we just have a simple lateral flow test, for example. We don't need expensive equipment, and it should be available where we need it. Now, I've added another point that the World Health Organization doesn't talk about, which is data capture. So being able to get that information from individual farms and animals centrally, so we can do surveillance and monitor, is also important in the veterinary world. Now, also, how do we know that the test actually works? And there are multiple steps here. The first may be a classic laboratory validation, where we understand the accuracy, the precision, the reproducibility in a laboratory environment. So we have a new test, we compare it to a gold standard, and we're very sure. But the reality is, when we take a test from the laboratory and take it to the field, we all know that things change. So it is really important to have clinical validation of the test in the field where we're actually using it. So to determine the sensitivity, the specificity, the positive and negative predictive value in the environment we're using the test is also very important. And then finally, we should ask ourselves the question whether use of that test actually gives us a better outcome. It's all very well testing, but the question is, does the test lead to better disease diagnostics, better outcome for the animal, for the farmer, for the population? And to help us do that, there are various standards around the world, so the STARD and ASBCP guidelines, which I won't go into, but it gives us confidence that the test actually does what it should do. And the final comment I'd make is, in this situation, is that in many countries you can market a test. A test can be sold without necessarily going through regulatory or government control. So to some extent it is user beware. If we choose to use a test, we should ask ourselves, has the test been validated, and reassure ourselves that the test actually does what it should do. Now, just back to some very simple epidemiology. Ideally, if we have a new cow-side test, we would like to compare it to a gold standard, a laboratory-based test that we are very confident in. So just very simply to define sensitivity and specificity, if we have a gold standard test where we truly know an animal is test positive for a disease or truly negative, we can then run the same samples using whatever our test might be, and of course we get a positive result or a negative result. And in an ideal world, the two tests would totally agree. But in reality, we know no test is perfect. So we may have animals that are test positive, that the test picks up as true positive, but there'll be false negatives. So the test will not pick up a diseased animal. And conversely, we would hope that all of the animals that are truly negative are negative on the test, but we get false positives as well. And knowing this data, we can then define the sensitivity as the true positive over all the positives, the specificity, the true negatives over all of the negatives, positive predictive value, so the true positive over all the test positive, the negative predictive value, so true negative over all the negatives, and the accuracy, so basically all the true positive plus all the true negatives divided by all of the tests we do. Now, for any test we use, we need this information to understand how good the test actually is. But one of the problems we have, as I say, is that not all tests, or in fact no test is perfect. And so there are now mathematical, epidemiological ways of dealing with imperfect tests. So we can compare two tests and we can do, for example, kappa statistics, and there are now more sophisticated Bayesian models which allow us to compare two tests and get an estimate of the sensitivity and specificity even though we have no perfect gold standard test. And this is the way of the future in terms of test validation. Now, in more practical terms, there are actually many different point of care tests now, and this is just a short list of tests that are already commercially available for use in cattle medicine. And I'm not going to go through all of these. It would take us days to work our way through it. But just be aware, there are many tests already available to us. Now, just to work through some examples, the first and very simple example is the rapid mastitis test or Californian mastitis test. And this technology is actually 70 years old. This is very old technology, but it is a very good example of a very simple, it's a rapid test. It takes 15 to 20 seconds to perform. It is a very cheap test, a few cents per cow, and it's truly cow-side. You can walk to the cow, you can do the test, you get a result, and you can make a decision. And it is still a useful test. We still use this test today, even though it is 70 years old. So we can screen animals for subclinical mastitis infection where we have no herd test data. Now, it's not a perfect test. So we know, for example, that the sensitivity might be fairly high, 96%, but the specificity is relatively low. and the positive predictive value is low, but the negative predictive value is very good. So depending on what we want to do, it's actually a very good and, as I say, very cheap test. But it has the disadvantage that it tells us, for example, that a cow might have subclinical infection by looking at inflammation. That's what it's measuring, but it doesn't tell us what the bacteria is. It gives us no guidance, for example, of which antimicrobial to treat this cow with. So the next level of sophistication might be to do on-farm culture. So to actually take a aseptic milk sample, to put it on this agar plate, and to actually determine what bacteria are present. And so this, for example, is what's called a quad plate. It's a New Zealand plate, and it allows us to differentiate gram-positive bacteria, so Staphylococci and Streptococci, from gram-negative bacteria and other different types of bacteria. And this test, again, is not perfect. When we test this against our laboratory gold standard, our sensitivity might be 60 to 80%, depending on the bacteria. Specificity is variable. But it is still useful because it saves us time and in fact, money. And so how do we use this test? So we implement these sort of tests on farm, where we say to the farmer, before you treat the cow with antibiotics, please collect a milk sample, and within 24 hours, for example, you can work out whether there's no bacterial growth or a coliform, in which case we would say, don't use antibiotics, don't treat that animal. You might use a non-steroidal, but the cow will get better. If it's a Staph aureus, we might choose to treat with cloxacillin, for example. If it's something else, we treat with penicillin. So we can make smarter decisions about whether we treat the animal and what we treat it with. And again, that's helping us manage drug use and antimicrobial resistance. And so this is an example of a study with 2,500 cows where we implemented this on-farm system in 7 herds, and we monitored antimicrobial use. So we had a control group that just treated cows as they normally did, and a treatment group within the farm where they did the culture and then chose the antibiotic. And the important message here is that we reduced antimicrobial use by about 20%, and we got more focused, more appropriate use of antimicrobials. Now, one of the issues with this technology that I've just been showing you is that it requires some skills. It requires you to be able to look at a plate and interpret it. Now, there's another bit of New Zealand technology called the master test, which goes the next step by automating the identity of the pathogen and by, in fact, capturing that data and sending that data back to us electronically. So in this particular system, the milk goes into a series of wells here that firstly identifies the species involved, but it also gives us a minimum inhibitory concentration. It gives us some indication of what the antimicrobial sensitivity of this particular bacteria is. So again, it's helping us make decisions about what bug's there and potentially what we might choose to treat that animal with. So moving on from mastitis, another bit of technology that's been borrowed, if you like, from human medicine is the ability to assess the negative energy balance of a dairy cow. We all know that cows go into negative energy balance after calving, but being able to monitor at an individual animal level, or preferably a population level, how many animals have gone into negative energy balance helps us talk about nutrition, help reduce negative energy balance, helps reduce disease. And so there's actually been many studies now using this little handheld meter here. There's a little test strip here. You put a drop of blood on it, and within a few seconds you get a reading of glucose or beta-hydroxybutyrate in this case. And this test system has been very well validated now. We're very confident of the results out of it. And just to show you some meta-analysis work that was published some years ago and a receiver-operator curve here, that we see that the sensitivity and specificity of these tests to define whether an animal's got ketosis or not ketosis is very high. So we have a sensitivity up at 95 odd percent, specificity 98%. And again, these are truly cow-side technology. You draw a blood, within a very short period of time, you've got a result, and you can feed that information back to the farmer. You know, we need to change what we're feeding the cows. So again, this is truly cow-side, but you know, slightly increased cost because we have technology. We now have to pay for the strips. We now have to pay for the meter. But you know, it's available, it's there, and it still is cost effective. And then to finish up, I'd just like to talk about some of the emerging technology. So, for example, to understand what bacteria or virus might be infecting an animal, we can now use nucleic acid detection systems. So we don't need to culture bacteria, for example, or do viral isolation work, because we can look at the genetics, the genes, of the bacteria and the viruses in whatever tissue sample we're doing. So many of us would be aware of polymerase chain reaction, PCR technology, which historically has been in a high-end lab, expensive equipment. But in fact, PCR now has been developed for use on farm. You can put these units onto a dairy farm, and with a low level of training, people can actually collect samples and run it through a PCR system to actually determine you know, what the causative agent is, and depending on how the PCR is set up, would tell us whether an antibiotic resistance gene is present in that bacteria or not. And again, that helps us make clinical decisions. The other bit of technology that is already commercialised that people might be aware of is the MinION system, and this is basically a sequencing system that plugs into a laptop, and so again we can actually get an understanding of what the causative agent of disease is. We can again look at resistance genes. And so this technology is being miniaturized, it's being commercialized, and is going from high-end, you know, technical laboratories down to the farm level. It's still expensive, it's still not necessarily useful on every farm, but within 5 or 10 years, I believe this technology will be cost-effective and available to many of us. So just to conclude, why do we do point-of-care testing? It increases the speed of diagnostic outcomes. We make better clinical decisions, so improving animal health and welfare. It helps with antimicrobial choice when treating, so better antimicrobial usage, stewardship, certainly can reduce time and cost. And while we have existing technology, in the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to see more and more of this high-end technology coming out of the laboratory to come cow-side, and that will mean faster and better diagnostics. But the point I do want to make is that as users of that technology, we do need to ask the question, is this test well designed? Does it actually do what we want it to do? Is it well validated? And really importantly, is it cost effective? Should I send the sample to the laboratory or should I use it on farm? And is it cost effective to do it right here? And with that, I thank you for your attention and we'll answer questions later.
Thanks very much, Scott. Certainly appreciate that whirlwind tour of those diagnostic technologies. Our next speaker is Anna Stigar. She's a research scientist at the Natural Resources Institute in Finland with a broad research interest related to economics of disease, farm management, animal welfare, and precision livestock farming. Welcome, Anna.
Is it working? Yes. Thanks a lot, David, for a very nice introduction. It's an honor for me to present my research at the front of such a nice audience and honorable minister. So I will take you for a trip around the technologies. First stop, Finland. Luka, it's the place where I'm working. It's Natural Resource Institute. where we are solving local and global challenges related to agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. Regarding myself, I'm trying to solve their local problem, and local I mean problems related to dairy cattle population of about 250,000, so not so much, as well as global issues related to livestock production for profitable and responsible primary production. So, next step of my presentation, it's not so obvious, but it's a shop. I think that many of you could relate to the situation that we are in the shop and we have seconds to decide and we want to buy a carton of milk. We can decide based on the price, because the package is nice, or because we want to buy product that is ethically produced. For example, from animals that are healthy and have not been treated with antibiotics. So one way of using the technology is to inform our consumers about the quality of the product. But I will return to this example at the end of my presentation. This also resembles me a bit situation that farmers are facing nowadays when buying or investing in precision livestock technologies. Of course, they don't have seconds to decide, and they don't pay as little for the technology as we for milk, but there is plenty to select from. So the precision livestock farming market is huge. Already now it's estimated to be worth of 3.2 billion euros, and it is increasing every year. About 2 years ago, I was involved in the research where we did the market analysis of PLF technologies for use for animal-based welfare assessment. We did it in English, so probably we will lose some producers that are providing those kind of solutions, but still we were able to identify 130 different products for 21 countries from 67 different producers. And the leaders here are the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and United States. And we did it 2 years ago, and we believe our results are not anymore valid, because at the same time we were doing it, we also identified over 100 startups in animal monitoring and livestock monitoring. This is not only about dairy, this is all possible startups that we can have, but we believe that probably now there will be even more technology on the market. So let's imagine we are taking a farmer to a PLF market where she can buy different solutions and tools. So what we can find on the shelves? First of all, accelerometers and scales. This is about like more than 50% of everything that's currently there. Then obviously for the sector we will have some tools for monitoring milk production. This will be like 20%. About 11% would be solutions based on boluses, and marginally there will be some products based on cameras, GPS, and microphones. So this is what's on the market, and this is what they actually can do using those solutions. So first of all, we can buy accelerometers, and they can be attached to animals, to different parts of the animal, so neck, leg, ear, head. But some producers actually would offer different attachment points. That's why those numbers will not sum up to 100%. So accelerometers are measuring animal behavior, so lying time, eating, rumination. Based on that, we can have the health records or reproduction status of animal. We can use scales, and then we will get information about feeding and body weight of animals. We can use milk sensors to be informed about health, production, and reproduction. We can use boluses to be informed about temperature, pH, and activity. And last but not least, we can use cameras to indicate about temperature, body condition score, or feeding monitoring. So you can see there is plenty of them, and some of them even could inform us about the same issues. So now, which one of them are working the best? We should advise our farmer, tell him, her, what she should or he should invest in. And the answer is, I don't know, and actually I don't know if many others will. because we actually did a literature check trying to look how many of these tools been validated. So somebody check actually how they are working and compare to some well-defined gold standards. And we found that actually only 13% of the tools that are on the market have been validated. That's not actually a lot. So we know that there is lots of tools. We know that we don't really know really well how they are working. So where are now those technology innovations? And actually, I don't believe they are in creating or developing new sensors, because we already have quite a lot of them. The innovation is actually of trying to use them better, so creating an added value to those tools that are already on the market. Here you can see the picture, which actually demonstrates quite well what we are intended to do in the project that I'm now working at. You have a person that's going there to evaluate the animal health and welfare, and you have animals with the sensors. So what we are trying to do is to see if we can skip that person visit, but evaluate animal welfare basically using sensors. So what we did, it's the results from the big EU project called Clear Farm. We visited 6 farms, those are there, in 3 different countries, and we evaluated animals concerning their welfare. So those on green are with very good welfare, those in yellow are in average, and those in blue are in bad. So now, we try to use sensor technologies, bolus accelerometer and milk sensors, to build machine learning algorithm to classify those animals and say that those are green, those are yellow, and those are blue. So we are in progress of this work. The initial results indicate that we will not have only one algorithm, but there could be actually several of them better suited for the farms, specific conditions of the farms. So there is no one-size-fits solution regarding classifying animal welfare. So this kind of algorithm could be of use to, for example, labeling our products, but also to indicate to the vets or healthcare farms and animals that needs a specific attention and should be cared. So I have 3 short conclusions based on the presentation. We have plenty of sensor technologies that could, maybe we don't know exactly how this technology are working, but they are collecting extreme lot of data, basically every second from our animals, which can provide very useful information about animal health and welfare. Second conclusion, we already have really a lot of technologies, so the innovation is maybe not in developing new sensors, but providing an additional value to existing tools by informing about health and welfare. And the third conclusion, the increasing digitalization of livestock sector offers us the possibility of developing information policies. So, for example, by developing new welfare labels based on sensor technologies and providing more holistic healthcare solutions. So that's all from my side. I've been here presenting on my own, but the results are from the small or big PLF group that we have in Luca Institute. So I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for that very informative and quick journey through precision farming technologies. At this point, I'd like to turn the podium over to our guest here today, the very Honorable Minister Balyan, Minister of State of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, and ask him to make some comments to the assembled group here.
Dr. David, Dr. Harifumi, Dr. Scott, Dr. Anna, Basuji, trained in animal health. And I think nowadays trains are very dangerous in India in animal health. India has one of the largest livestock population in world. We have 303 million bovines. We have 74 million sheep, 148 million and 9 million about pigs. Basu, tell about how we are doing. Our ministry is trying hard to overcome the problem in health section. And I want to say something. It is this session is just like my MBSc or PhD class of microbiology or epidemiology, I think. It's 15 years. I have attended a class after 15 years. I have some suggestions. We are facing a lot of challenges. New diseases are emerging. Some come from Africa and other countries. We are facing challenges in LSD, lumpy skin disease. We have more challenges because we have a dense population of human as well as animals. And we are trying to vaccinate our animals, but we have a large number of animal population. We are also facing African swine fever in pigs, and also it's come from Africa, I think. We are facing challenges in poultry. So if you are here from worldwide and also from OIE, you belong. So we have to take measure. How can we stop the diseases from one country to other country? We have our indigenous population. We have disease-free population. But we are facing challenges. The diseases come from other countries. So we have to think about this. अब मैं दो बातें चूंकि किसान भी इनसे कर लूं. हमारे डेयरी के चौसा बैठे हैं, बहुत से लोग बैठे हैं और बहुत बड़ा संकट हम सबके सामने है, बहुत बड़ा संकट. और हमारा ढांचा इतना मजबूत भी नहीं है. स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और डेयरी कोऑपरेटिव मिलकर प्रयास कर रही हैं कि समस्याओं से कैसे बाहर निकलें. हर साल नया चैलेंज, और इस साल तो दो नए चैलेंज, अफ्रीकन स्वाइन फीवर और LSD. और हो सकता है आगे और कोई नया चैलेंज. अब मजबूत करना होगा हमें अपना ढांचा. सोच इस बात पर हमारे कमिश्नर बैठे हैं, डॉक्टर परवीन मलिक, बहुत काम किया है इन्होंने. मनीष बैठे हैं, हमारे MD यहाँ पे मौजूद हैं मदर डेयरी के. अब सब कोऑपरेटिव को, सरकार को मिलकर इकट्ठी एक सामूहिक लड़ाई लड़नी पड़ेगी इन बीमारियों के खिलाफ. अकेली सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं कर सकती. हम वैक्सीन सप्लाई कर सकते हैं, संसाधन दे सकते हैं, पैसा दे सकते हैं, लेकिन जो वर्क फोर्स है वो शायद स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की पूरी ना पड़े. तो एक ट्रेंड बदलना पड़ेगा पूरे सिस्टम में. जितने कोऑपरेटिव के लोग यहाँ आए हुए हैं, जिस तरह से अमूल काम करता है एनिमल हेल्थ के ऊपर, वेटनरी सर्विसेज के ऊपर, वो काम सभी मिल कोऑपरेटिव को करना पड़ेगा मिलकर. वो मदर डेयरी को भी करना पड़ेगा. जब हम सामूहिक तौर पे मिलेंगे तो शायद इन समस्याओं से पार पा सकते हैं. मैं सबका स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं. मैं माफ़ी चाहता हूं, मुझे थोड़ी जल्दी है, मेरी फ्लाइट है, मुझे कहीं इसी मामले को लेकर जाना है. और मुझे लगता है डॉक्टर मलिक आप मेरी तरफ से बैठ सकते हैं थोड़ी देर के लिए. जब पैनल डिस्कशन होगा तो आप मेरी तरफ से मेरी जगह बैठ सकते हैं. सबका धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Thank you very much, Minister.
I would like to request our chair to kindly felicitate our honorable minister with the memento.
ऐसा मत करो चलो चलिए आप कह रहे हैं थैंक यू
All right, can we have a huge round of applause?
Thank you very much for being here. So, again, thank you, Minister, for attending the session and contributing to it. In the interests of time, I've been told that we will not have time for our panel discussion and questions, but our speakers will be available throughout the balance of the day, so don't hesitate to ask them any questions that you may have. With that, thank you very much, all of you, for your attendance, and I'll bring this session to a close.
Thank you so much. I would like to request everyone to kindly be seated for a while as we have a launch for Tank Shore. Yes. If I am not wrong, we are not continuing with the panel discussion, right? Or are we? No? No? Okay. Shall I proceed further in that case? Okay, thank you. All right, everyone, I would like to request everyone to kindly be seated for a while as we have a launch for Tankashore, India's first automatic milk sampler for milk tanker. Also, I would like to request all our speakers and chair to kindly take their seat back so that we can proceed with this launch. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. It was an interactive session with you all. And we look forward for the launch of Tankashore, India's first automatic Before we proceed further with the launch of Tankashore, I would like to call once again all our speakers and chair on stage so that we can felicitate with you all with the mementos. I would like to request our chair, Mr. David Kelton, to be back on stage so that you may felicitate your fellow speakers with the mementos. And also I would like to call upon all our speakers once again on stage. I would like to request our chair, David Kelton, to proceed further with to felicitate our fellow speakers with the mementos. So, can we have Dr. Hirofumi Kujita? And can we have a huge round of applause? Now I would like to request Mr. Upmanyu Basu, and once again, can we have a huge round of applause? Now I would like to request Mr. Scott to proceed further to receive the memento, and once again, can we have a huge round of applause? And now I would like to request the beautiful lady, Miss Anna, to proceed further for the memento. And once again, can we have a huge round of applause? And now, we would love to felicitate our chair, Mr. David Kelton, and I need not to mention, can we have once again a huge round of applause? Thank you so much to our chair and all the speakers. Also, I would request everyone to gather together for a group picture. You all may take your mementos with you in the picture. Yes. A perfect picture with bright smiles. Thank you, everyone. All right, so finally, I would like to request everyone to kindly be seated for a while as we have a launch for Tankishore, India's first automatic milk sampler for milk tanker. And to proceed the same, I would like to call upon Dr. Sudhendra Tati. Can we have a huge round of applause? I would like to request everyone who's here to wait for a while as we'll take another 2-3 minutes to launch Tankishore. Meanwhile, just be seated. We just need your little cooperation in the same. Thank you so much.
Milk, the first source of nutrition for every human being. A beverage that aided a revolution in a country. The most popular drink that energizes an entire nation and fuels its economy. And we are proud to aid an industry that is boosting the country's pursuit of purity. We are Prompt Dairy Tech, a technology company with a commitment to bring innovation and sustainability. By digitizing end-to-end dairy supply chain. This commitment leads us to many relentless pursuits. The pursuit of innovation, which helps us to stay ahead of the curve. The pursuit of quality, which helps us build technology for the good of humanity. The pursuit of excellence, which pushes our team of 850 plus professionals to ensure the best quality of milk reaches our consumers. And above all, the pursuit of purity, which inspires us every single day. We are Prompt Dairy Tech. Nutrition for every human being. A beverage that aided a revolution in a country. The most popular drink that energizes an entire nation and fuels its economy. And we are proud to aid an industry that is boosting the country's pursuit of purity. We are Prompt Dairy Tech, a technology company with a commitment to bring innovation and sustainability. by digitizing end-to-end dairy supply chain. This commitment leads us to many relentless pursuits. The pursuit of innovation, which helps us to stay ahead of the curve.
Good afternoon. Can you hear? Yes, good afternoon. On behalf of Prompt Group, an Ahmedabad-based company, I'd like to heartily welcome
The pursuit
you all
of
to
excellence, which pushes our team of 850 plus professionals to ensure the best quality of milk reaches our consumers.
Before we do the launch, I'd like to invite our guests.
And above all, the pursuit of purity,
May I first request
which inspires us every single day. We are Prompt Dairy Tech.
Please come on stage. Please give him a round of applause. May I now invite Mr. Amit Vyas. Please come.
Milk,
Amit Vyas, Managing
the first
Director
source of nutrition for every human being.
Please give him a round of applause.
A beverage that aided a revolution in a country.
The Vice Chairman of Amul,
The most
Mr.
popular
Joy,
drink
please
that
come on
energizes an entire nation and fuels its economy. And we are proud to aid an industry that
Please also help me in welcoming Mr. Sridhar Mehta, the founder of the Prompt Group, to please come on stage. I'm inviting Kutch Dairy Chairman, Mr. Balamji, to come on stage. And let me also invite Mr. Naresh Patil, Director from Group, to please come on stage. Please give him a round of applause. So thank you all for coming. Welcome to this global launch of Tank Assure. The motto at Prompt is pursuit of purity. And this relentless pursuit is guided and inspired by fundamental principles of transparency and trust. So why did we develop this product? It's driven by the need from the dairies to monitor and measure the volume and quantity and quality of milk in a transparent way, to reduce pilferage, to reduce human intervention in the collection system, and to continuously improve the trust and transparency between all the stakeholders in the dairy supply chain. So Prompt has developed this product called Tank Assure, which we will inaugurate today, which is a password locked intelligent box with sensors, electronics, which will automatically sample milk from collection points in the dairy supply chain. And it will enable smooth operation of building transparency and trust. So may I now invite Mr. Jayan Mehta and the guests to please come and inaugurate and launch this product for the dairy chain. Thank you.
Prompt presents Tank Assure. India's first automatic milk sampling system for milk tankers. Current challenges in milk transportation from BMC to dairy. Milk sampling and temperature measurement is done manually, which is prone to errors. No security of sample taken from BMC, prone to manipulation. Milk quantity is measured manually through dipstick, but actual milk quantity is transferred in milk tanker of respective BMC cannot be determined. Composite milk sample is not taken into consideration. To overcome these challenges, Prompt has developed Tank Assure, an intelligent and digital system that leverages GPS, RFID, and Wi-Fi technology. Tank Assure is an electromechanical intelligent box which is mounted behind the milk tanker. It functions to automatically collect milk sample of BMC, measure milk quantity and temperature with the help of an inbuilt magnetic flow meter with a temperature sensor. Dairy installs RFID tagged sample bottles in the Tank Assure, an electromechanical lock which can be opened or closed by an authorized dairy person only. When milk tanker reaches the BMC, doors of the sampler remain digitally password locked and completely secured.